All films contain codes and conventions which help the audience understand the genre of the film. Over a period of time, subgenres were created by combining these different codes and conventions. An example of a subgenre being a slasher horror. One of the first films to use the slasher horror subgenre is the 1978 version of Halloween. Now, although that film was made quite a while ago, films of today still use these conventions of a slasher horror film. For my film, I'm going to be using the same conventions of a slasher horror film, but I will be breaking some codes and conventions to fit my audience's needs. Slasher films are codified with certain codes and conventions to help recognize the genre of the film. For example, in a slasher film there is normally a male psychotic killer scene. Within my film, I decided to keep the male figure so that the audience were able to recognize the genre of the film. I have also decided to follow the conventions of having the killer wearing a mask, as it conveys mystery and keeps the audience thinking about who the killer really is. Another thing which is conventional to have in a slasher horror film is a group of teenagers who are all killed off accordingly depending on their character. For example, normally there is a black character which is seen who normally dies first. But in my film I have broken the codes conventions, as I felt I didn't need a black character to help portray my story in any way. Another character which is normally seen in a slasher horror film is the blonde, sexually active girl who normally always dies in the film. I've decided to include this girl in our film under the name of Ashley, as I felt she was really needed to portray the subgenre of a slasher horror film. Along with the blonde, sexually active girl, I've decided to include the intelligent, virginal brunette girl, who can be seen as a binary opposite. The brunette girl is normally the person who figures out what the killer's trying to do, who the killer is, and normally ends up stopping him. So in my film I decided to include this character as she's such an important and powerful character to the film. Her name in our film is Alex. The reason I've decided to choose this name is because it's a unisex name and she comes across as a man-like figure, as she is the only one who's able to stop the villain. In order to benefit my film, I've decided to use an intertextual reference to the film Scream, as it's a really popular film that everyone knows about, and it would help gain popularity to my film. So what I've done is, at the beginning of the film I had the same Scream phone call with the same voice as he's talking to the final girl in my film, which helps the audience feel familiar with the type of genre and the type of film which is happening. The phone call scene is the first time we are introduced to the blonde, sexually active girl. In this scene she's wearing a really tight white belly top and leggings. This portrays the nature of her character